Good afternoon and welcome to our last meeting in August. Appreciate those of you who are here in the audience. We got a crowd, and that's a good thing. It's always a good thing we have people in the audience, and those of you watching us on Electric City Television. I will lead us in invocation today, and respect to the flags will be given by Council Member Tony Stewart. Please rise. Father, we thank you for this day, and we thank you for the many blessings that you have bestowed upon our community. We ask that you give this governing board of the city the guidance to set policy that is pleasing in your eyes. As always, we ask that you protect members on our team who are put in harm's way every day, and we ask that you return them safely to us and to their homes each day. We ask that you look over our nation, our political leaders, as they make decisions over the next few months, or the voting public will make decisions over the next few months that will affect our state and our municipalities in our state. We ask all these things in your name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get into the body of our meeting, we do have some special recognitions, and I'm going to ask Chief Stewart to come up and lead us in those recognitions. Chief.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Council. This is always a special time for us this time of year where we get to recognize some of our exemplary officers who are getting promoted. This year we have 1 sergeant and 5 corporals. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about those individuals as they come forward, and they'll make their way around the podium here. First, I'd like to ask Sergeant Ethan Kaskin to come down. Sergeant Kaskin joined the police department in 2008. He's also served in our patrol division, investigations, and in the community patrol. He also has worked on the street level units. And Ethan, I believe you have some family here you'd like to recognize.
I do. I'd like to recognize my lovely wife Tracy and our mutual friend Ryan.
Next, Corporal Ken Blakely. Corporal Blakely started in law enforcement in 1993. In 2007, he was hired in Anderson County as the chief arson investigator. He currently works in our criminal investigative division, and he investigates property crimes as well as serving on the arson task force. And Ken, I believe you'd like to recognize a family member that you have.
I do. My president, my 6-month-old grandbaby, my daughter, and her fiance.
Corporal Justin Stone. Corporal Stone joined the Anderson Police Department 6 years ago. He most recently graduated with his Master of Criminal Justice degree from the Command College at Anderson University. And Corporal Stone currently serves in our narcotics division, also on our SWAT unit. Corporal Nicole Zickler. Corporal Zickler is also she's currently in the Command College at Anderson University. She served here as an intern in our department before going on full time with the police department, and she's currently in the criminal investigative division as well as a detective. You'd like to recognize someone here tonight? And I brought these two especially down together. And Corporal Stone, would you like to recognize anybody tonight? Corporal Melissa Boggs. Corporal Boggs has joined law enforcement in 2001 with the Converse College Campus Safety. She's also worked with Spartanburg Public Safety and is a distinguished graduate of the South Carolina Criminal Justice Academy. She came to us in 2013, and she holds a bachelor's degree from Columbia Southern. She is currently our evidence officer for the entire city of Anderson. And Corporal Charlynn Ezell. Charlynn has been with the department for about 6 years. She serves in the Criminal Investigative Division and also works on the Attorney General's Crimes Against Children's Task Force. She also holds a bachelor's degree from Columbia Southern. Correct. And Charlynn, you have somebody you'd like to recognize tonight? Or? Okay. And Corporal Boggs, I'm sorry, did you have somebody you'd like to recognize now? Thank you. All right, if you guys would step on up, we'll take the oath. I'm going to swear in Sergeant Kaskin first. Sergeant Kaskin, if you raise your right hand. I, as a sergeant of the City of Anderson, will equally, fairly, and impartially, to the best of my ability and skill, exercise the trust reposed in me, and will use my best endeavors to preserve the peace, to carry into effect, according to law, the purpose for which I've been elected. So help me God. All right. And now, if our 5 corporals will all raise their right hand. Start. Corporal Blakely. I. Corporal Blakely. Justice Stewart.
Nicole, Zickler, Ezell.
As a corporal with the City of Anderson, will equally, fairly, and impartially, to the best of my ability and skill, exercise the trust reposed in me,
Use my best endeavors
to preserve the peace, carry into effect, according to law, the purpose for which I've been elected. So help me God.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Very proud for you. Congratulations. Hey, congratulations. Nice, sweet thing. Congratulations. So glad for you. Congratulations.
The minutes of our August 8th minutes have been distributed. Are any corrections or additions to the minutes?
Make a motion, we approve them as presented.
First by Mr. Stewart, second by Mr. Buck Roberts. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes of August 8th pass unanimously. Having no old business, we'll move directly into our 6th item of new business. And the first item is request consideration of an ordinance amending the 2015-2016 budget. Ms. McConnell.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is something that you do routinely after our audit has taken place. We take a look at the budget and also the expenditures that we had, which were either the result of revenue we received during the year, such as grants, or something that was unbudgeted during the year that you may have approved during the course of the year. For this year, in amending the 2015-16 budget, we show an increase in the general fund budget of $177,500, the transit fund for $1.1 million, and the community development fund for $1.4. These, as I said, specifically in the general fund, the police revenue is what we have, what you've heard us refer to, and we'll refer to it again tonight, our e-share revenues that we received during the year. The fire department also receives rescue team revenue, and then we approve the purchase of 3 buses and a transit vehicle for the transit department. When it comes to the community development funds, as you will know, the federal government has a different fiscal year than the city does. Their fiscal year runs from October 1 through September 30th. It also depends, because of the various programs that they have, certain expenditures or certain dollars may come to us in different different fiscal years than our fiscal year. So your budget amendment includes making those years coincide properly with our fiscal year. There's nothing unusual in this. As I said, most of these things you've seen at some point during the year, or they're normal types of expenditures. So this certainly does, by our amending the budget, it does make our budget document more meaningful when we try and compare expenditures and revenues one year to the next. It makes that all make a little more sense.
Thank you. Questions, comments? I agree. It's things that we've seen over the course of the fiscal year.
Mayor,
Ms. Harvard?
I make a motion to approve this, Mayor.
First by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Dr. Thompson. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passed unanimously on the first reading. Our next item is request consideration of an ordinance approving a lease of property located at 446 East Shockley Ferry Road to New Foundations Homes for Children. Ms. McCall.
This piece of property has been in the city's ownership for a number of years. It's also, the house itself has been occupied by New Foundations for right at 40 years. You might remember that New Foundations has had different names over the years. They were, many years ago, they were probably best known as Crisis Ministries. Then they were known as the Anderson Youth Association, and more recently, as in tonight, they are known as New Foundations Home for Children. Because they've been the tenant in the building for 40 years and also have made investments over those years in that facility, they would like to continue making investments and capital improvements specifically to the building itself. They've maintained the property, as I said, since 1976, and we would like to entertain with them a lease agreement that is a long-term basis and allows New Foundations to continue this relationship with the City of Anderson. But this will allow them to make have a capital campaign to make more substantial capital improvements to the property. There are a couple of things in the lease I'd draw your attention to. The long-term basis, the way it's drawn up, is a 50-year lease. One of the stipulations, we have there are driveways, 2 driveways into the property. One that we would specifically maintain as joint use access because our cemetery department has maintenance and equipment facility in the rear of the property, and it's fenced in, but that is our access into that piece of that back portion of the property, as well as we can access the property from the cemetery side as well. The term, the 50 years plus $10 per year. There's a provision for a 30-day notice if the use of the property changes substantially from what it is now. The New Foundations would also be responsible for the maintenance and repair of the building itself, and we would require a $1 million liability insurance policy, and they would be required to have insurance, property insurance on the property as well. We think they've been a good partner with us for all these many years, and think that this is an appropriate thing for them to ask for in terms of their being able to make financial investment in the property. A lease agreement with the city for this use would be an appropriate mechanism for our partnership going forward.
Good, thank you. I know we discussed this. Any other questions or comments?
I have a question. How long have they been in that building? Do you have any idea?
Since 1976.
76, okay. So it's been 40 years.
Ms. Stewart?
I know we're talking about a 50-year lease, and there is an out within 30 days if the premises decide to be something or put in use different than what it's utilizing right now. Correct. But what if the city changes direction and has a different use or something that comes up where we see fit that we need to change direction? And that's why I don't have a problem with 50 years, but maybe we do 5-10-year renewable terms or something to give us an out to come back in case we change direction at some point in time. It really doesn't give us any out.
Well, I think principally the reason for the long-term lease was primarily because if the New Foundations is going to embark on a capital campaign, then certainly their donors would expect their dollars to be secured for a rather lengthy period of time, or to know that it's going for that period of time in terms of the capital improvements that they want to make. You certainly have the option of doing something less. It's what we served up to them, and they were in agreement. But we're
how much are they talking about investing?
Well, they're saying that they would at least embark on a $100,000 capital campaign.
I just think there needs to be some provision in there in case we decided to go a different route. You know, what gives us an out that we're not stuck for 50 years with this, and maybe it's tied to the pro rata share. You know, if they're investing $100,000 and divide that over 50 years, and if we go a different direction, maybe we pay back a portion of that money to them. You know, something that would give us an out.
Ms. Lockhart, I think Rick and then Dr. Thompson.
The reason I asked how long they had been in the building was because I want to get some idea of what they had already, terms they had already used. Since they've been in there that long, I would like to make a motion, and I know there's some other discussion, that we go ahead and accept this terms of lease.
We can keep talking. There's a motion on the floor.
I was just going to mention that I have...
Do we have a second? With the motion, there's a first.
I'll second it for discussion.
Second by Mr. Chapman. Dr. Thompson.
In working for School District 5, this building, New Foundations now, but at one time, as you mentioned, it was called Crisis Ministries. And
yes.
It has served an excellent purpose in our community. I've been there several times with troubled youth, and so I can't imagine that we would come up with something with the city that was more important than what's happening in there right now to serve the community. So I would not be against the lease as this motion has been made to go to 50 years, and perhaps we could say something could happen, but I can't envision anything that's going to be more important on part of the city by supporting this New Foundations program.
Well,
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chapman.
I don't have any problem with maybe we do some kind of compromise that it's 2 25-year terms. But I mean, I see, because our goal is to make sure that we're looking long range for the city. But I mean, I don't think they would be opposed to that, because 25 years is, I mean, that's 3/4 of what they've been there or thereabouts. So.
The staff's not, not opposed to a change in the term of the lease. I will tell you that as far as our trying to look forward and determine if we can foresee a use, obviously we'd like to have that real crystal ball, but in terms of the acreage that the city owns out there, we've got something close to 140 acres or so combined with the cemetery and land that's not currently in active use. In terms of looking at our cemetery and what we might want to do, our proposal would not be to move in the direction of the house, but our activities would be focused more in going in the other direction. I don't know if that helps you any, but we certainly want the ability to be able to utilize the bulk of our property, and this is just a small piece in the very front that, you know, has the frontage on Shockley Ferry Road.
We'll have Ms. Buck Roberts first.
At first, we were going to sell this to them, and we had a discussion on that. And the discussion ended up being, no, we'd be better off leasing. So, I don't see any problem with just leasing it. We'd like you got it myself.
Don, you have something?
I just wanted to make a comment. Unfortunately, other than maybe John over here, none of us are going to be here in 50 years. Unless, God willing, something miraculous happens.
I plan to be.
Well, but I don't think there's any harm in if Mr. Lockridge would amend us, you know, for 25-year, because it's, you know, and in 25 years, if it's still going strong like it is, and we hope that it is, then I think the council at that time would certainly move forward with, you know, with giving them another 25 years, or even, you know, offering the property at the time, because that's kind of what I thought we would lean towards.
I think it's kind of similar to, I could be wrong, but it probably similar to ANMED's lease to us, to the fire department, McCants, ANMED's lease to the YMCA. You know, I think
In terms of that.
it's probably 50 years too. If I'm not, I mean, when I was on that board,
And we do have an out. Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
The out is if they change the usage of this in a big way, then we do have that out for that that lease.
But that, I was just speaking of, that's their out, but as we look at building plans and embarking on new public works facility, right now you don't have any really cemetery facility to, you know, other than a place right behind that house. It's not really any, and if we ever embarked on building something new for our cemetery, to, you know, how would all that impact, and, you know, just thinking down the road, and that's what I'm thinking about, not knowing what this council is going to do, you know, 25, 30 years from now. So, but again,
good discussion. Anything else different?
Call for question.
First and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? We have Mr. Chapman, Mr. Stewart, and Mr. John Roberts opposing.
Please make it clarified that, you know, I don't think any of us are against the organization. I think it's just
the term.
It's just more the terms that are better for the city. Because I think they're very worthy, because I remember them.
I agree.
From 35 years ago, 40 years ago.
Good. Thanks, guys. Our next item is request consideration of purchase of 2 vehicles for the police department. Ms. McConnell?
We have a request for these 2 vehicles at a net cost of $35,600. This includes a trade-in credit, and it also is to replace 2 vehicles in our fleet. One of the things that has occurred that caused this issue to come before you tonight was that one of our patrol vehicles was involved in a traffic accident that was not our fault, but it ended up in the insurance company totaling the vehicle, and that was a 2007 Ford Crown Victoria, and we settled on that total of that vehicle for $4,689. We also have a 2002 Chevrolet Tahoe that has some mechanical issues, and it does have high mileage. It would have been on our list in terms of our capital replacement vehicles. And what we've actually done is, rather than bringing these 2 vehicles with the list of capital improvement purchases as we typically do with y'all, these 2 vehicles would be purchased using the trade-in allowance, the insurance money, the trade-in allowance of $2,000, the insurance money, and then we would use that DEA e-share account that we talked about in the budget amendment of $30,911. Please bear in mind the two Dodge Chargers that we're talking about purchasing are brand new, even though they are 2014 model year vehicles. And of course, we have Dodge Charger patrol vehicles in our fleet now. This is not a fancy version. It is a 6-cylinder law enforcement model. It comes with its full warranty. This was simply an opportunity where the new models are getting ready to come out. The dealership, which is Butler Dodge, they do have the state contract, was an opportunity for them to give us a discount on the vehicles, brand new vehicles, take advantage of the trade-in and the insurance settlement, and get us 2 more vehicles in our replacement of the fleet for the police department. Chief is with us this evening. If you have any other questions, Carrie is here as well if you have any questions regarding the fleet, but the staff would certainly recommend the purchase of these 2 vehicles and trading those in as we described.
Thank you. Any comments, questions? Mr. Chapman?
I know that you'd mentioned that we've had great service out of the Dodge Chargers thus far, but I noticed that the county as well as other municipalities are starting to utilize the Ford Explorer. Have we, or is there a need in the future that we will start, that use of that vehicle as well?
We do have one Ford Explorer Interceptor in the fleet right now, and we're using that in forensic because that SUV type vehicle is better suited for us in forensics. As we are a city agency and the cost and the mileage, the V6 Charger is held up well. As far as durability as a police car, the longest Charger we have is a 2008, and it's still on the road. We currently have 20 Chargers out on the road. I think for most agencies, it's personal preference. The Ford Interceptor runs about $3,000 or $3,500 more than a V6 Charger.
Right,
but as we look at our vehicle replacement list, we would certainly look at our available options and determine, based upon what the chief said about fuel economy and our particular use, we would look at what options are available to us, including the Ford the Interceptor.
Mr. John Roberts?
Chief, to add to that comment, so one of the vehicles is a SUV that we're replacing.
No, that was a previous one last year in the capital equipment plan.
Okay.
It was. The 2002 Tahoe we're trading in, it was a grant vehicle for a criminal domestic violence grant, and it has basically served its usefulness. The engine transmission is still in good shape, but the vehicle is not.
Okay. Thank you.
Mayor.
Mr. Buck Roberts?
How about the maintenance on these? Are the maintenance good on these Dodge Chargers?
Yes, sir. I would say it's improved since 2013 when you started allowing the take-home vehicle program. Where officers assign one vehicle now, they are responsible for their maintenance, and I think that's carried out a lot better.
Thanks. Mr. Mayor, with that, I'd like to approve item B3 as presented.
Second.
First by Mr. Chapman, second by Mr. Buck Roberts. Further discussion?
Just one other question. With this Chevrolet Tahoe, there's nothing that it could be utilized in any other department, or it's not worthy to go to another department?
Like Ms. McConnell said, the mechanical part, it needs some air conditioner work in the future if we were to keep it. It's got holes in the seats, and it's worn out, basically, except for the mechanical part.
All right.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief. Our next item is to request consideration to purchase 2 fire trucks. Ms. McConnell?
This request is a big deal tonight. You certainly have your fire department represented in here tonight, and we might have to make them sit on their hands. They might be so excited. The consideration is to purchase 2 fire trucks, and I'll try to give you kind of the layman's version of what we're asking for tonight. And then we've certainly got the chief and the rest of his staff who are here can answer any of the technical questions that you may have regarding this purchase. We would like to purchase a pumper engine as well as a ladder truck. And the reason that this did not go before the Public Safety Committee and it's coming to you as a sole source purchase is part of what I'd like to explain first. Our procurement regulations allow us to go to a sole source method of procurement if we can provide some uniform system efficiencies. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what that really means to us. In fire department lingo, the manufacturer of the fire equipment, everybody does things just a little bit differently. The last two pieces of fire equipment that we've purchased have been by the Pierce Manufacturing Company. So not only are our fire department personnel familiar with the apparatus and the specifications of all of the equipment that's on these trucks, but your fleet maintenance is familiar with Pierce as a vendor and manufacturer as well. That is a big deal, and they might speak a little bit more to that. But we certainly, given the fact that we're familiar with Pierce, we know about their proven track record in terms of their service, their reliability. We know what that product is. They also have a dealer that's located in Spartanburg County, and they provide full service in terms of their shop and their parts department, which, being close by, if it's something that our maintenance is not able to do or not equipped to do, having that nearby is important to us. Spartan Fire and Emergency Apparatus is the dealer that actually handles the regional Pierce manufacturing equipment. The engine and the ladder are, as we're bringing it to you tonight, are significantly less expensive. And the reason why is because this is a demo truck, one specifically in terms of the where the equipment is in its life cycle right now. The ladder truck is already built. It's like a piece of equipment sitting on the lot just waiting for us. The engine pumper is on the assembly line now, and so we could have essentially both of those new pieces of equipment sitting at our stations ready to roll out and function within 3 to 6 months, as opposed to normal delivery time of being virtually more likely a year, but 9 to 12 months. If we were doing this the old-fashioned way, we would pay for speccing out and designing a truck exactly to our specifications. There's a fee involved for that. Typically, that fee runs about $25,000 to design that truck for us specifically. So in this case, 2 trucks, we're looking at not having to pay, and 2 different trucks, one ladder, one pumper. We're looking at not certainly saving that $50,000 in design and engineering cost by selecting vehicles that are readily available to us. In addition to that, the request tonight also includes outfitting those vehicles with the necessary equipment. That's your hose, that's your valves, tools that are specific to each truck, your radios, your extrication tools, and your airbags, air packs, and etc. So you have there are several layers of this purchase that we're bringing to you tonight. The engine price is $450,993. The ladder truck, $916,285. That extra equipment that we talked about on the trucks is $211,415. Included in this is also the personal protective firefighter equipment. By that, we're talking about the air packs that the firefighters use, and we're talking about their turnout gear. That's their pants, their coats, their boots. Both of those items have life expectancies. And in other words, they've got like expiration dates on them. In the case of your air cylinders and your turnout gear, they're 10-year lifespan for your turnout gear, 15 years for your air cylinders. And currently, we have 10 air cylinders that will reach their life expectancy at the end of this calendar year. So this was a good opportunity for us to package this as vehicles, equipment on the vehicles, personal protective equipment, and really outfit our personnel and our trucks with what is needed to carry out their task. In fact, the trucks that we're getting, if we were speccing these out ourselves, they include some equipment that we would probably consider more than we would be willing to pay. So we think we're getting a better product because it is a demo than if we were designing it straight out. So with what I just described, it standardizes our equipment that we have with one manufacturer that we're comfortable with, that's Pierce. There's certainly substantial savings in terms of the dollars from not having to design it and packaging it all as one unit. And we have the savings in time by being able to have it on site 3 to 6 months as opposed to 9 to 12 months. So we think there are definite advantages that made us bring this deal to you tonight. And we did, it's one of those items that we did budget for. Certainly as we went through the budget process, we anticipated the purchase of a ladder and a pumper this year, so it's not a surprise in terms of our budget and the fact that we would have dollars available. The next item on the agenda tells you how we'll truly fund this, which is a lease purchase agreement. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next item, assuming that you like this idea.
That was a lot.
That was a lot, but we've got the experts, all the experts here to tell you more.
I guess I'll lead it off with a question. How did we get, were we shopping the lot, or, I mean, how did we come across this
Chief,
potential
talk about your truck
purchase?
committee and what these guys can
Yes,
do.
ma'am. We put together a truck committee several months ago, and we started out just looking at apparatus, what we have versus what's on the market. These guys did extensive research, and going back to Pierce Manufacturing, in speccing out a truck, as Ms. McConnell says, we're saving $25,000 per unit. And on this particular ladder truck, we're saving an additional $70,000 by it being a demo unit that's already built and waiting for us to purchase. So in the committee going through their process, we looked at every manufacturer, and we talked to a lot of people. We've looked at a lot of trucks, and you know, mine's better than yours, and you need to buy this one. But looking at quality and going through the specs that our committee had put together, there's a lot of things that we looked at, and of course, construction of the vehicle was number one. The safety of the vehicle is a big plus for us. The body thickness and all the components that you don't see with the visible eye just looking at the truck. So going back to, we kept going back to Pierce, and these trucks, of course, working with Chris Harris, who's a local representative for Spartan Fire Apparatus, and going back and looking with these trucks and talking with him and working with him, and you know, looking at other manufacturers, we felt like that Pierce was the fit for us in Anderson.
Good.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Chapman and then Mr. Stewart.
I have several questions. First, can you clarify which truck is the ladder truck now? What on our list? Because it says there's a backup ladder truck for Rescue 3, but I'm not sure which truck is our current ladder truck.
Truck 1 is our current ladder truck. That's up at Station 1.
Okay.
And that will be moved. One thing that we hadn't mentioned yet, we've got 2 engines, a 91 and a 93 model, that's going to be available to be sold.
Okay.
And determining the price of those engines, you know, we don't have it's not like a used vehicle car. We don't have a Kelly Blue Book. We can look up a price. So we're going to depend on a broker
to tell us what those trucks are worth, and we're in the process of getting all the information together. That the ladder truck that we have now is a 70-foot, and if you remember back in 2010, I believe, when that truck was purchased, we had a 100-foot Peter Purse ladder truck. At that particular time, that truck was a 74 model. It was a 100-foot stick, no water pump, no water tank. It was basically a ladder truck. It had got to the point that that truck was unsafe to operate. The ladder had a twist in it, and we, at that particular time, Chief Abrams was chief here, and that's when the Sutphen come in, because we disposed of that 100-foot ladder because it was just unsafe and unoperable anymore.
All right. So will our current ladder truck, will that go into a backup, or will that be sold as well?
Yes, sir. It will go into a backup. It'll be moved up to Station 2.
Okay.
And we've been all those years without a 100-foot ladder. And in the downtown area, the business district, we've got the hospital, we've got the Wilmere, we've got the Calhoun, we've got the old plaza, and we've been without that 100-foot ladder truck for several years now. And with ISO, that's really a requirement to keep us a good rating and help build our better rating. So it's been a thing that we've just been looking at and talking about for a while, and we've found the opportunity to save a good bit of money and buy this. It's a 105-foot stick ladder.
Okay. Another question is, have staff put their eyes on this ladder truck? Have somebody been there to see it and
this
get on it?
This particular ladder truck was brought to Anderson some few months ago as a demo, and it's probably about the first one that was brought to Anderson when we started shopping for a ladder truck.
Excellent. And then I know that, I've served on public safety, and we've talked about this for many years, of getting a taller ladder truck for the hospital. So I'm glad we're able, through this fund that we created and this great deal that you've been able to find, that's a positive move. But and then moving on to the turnout gear, will the turnout gear be donated to volunteer organization, or are they have to be thrown away or discarded of?
We usually put turnout gear back because of some of the things that happened in Maryland and Louisiana. A lot of volunteer fire departments were completely flooded and devastated. When you don't have anything, it's
better than nothing.
It's better than nothing. So we could eventually donate some of that gear if we had to. New hires that come in, till we can get them a new set of gear, then they'll wear that, and we'll always have some in reserve just in case.
Okay. Well, excellent. Thank you for what y'all do.
Mr. Stewart?
Just a couple of questions. The pumper truck, I know, like the old pumper truck we have right now, experience like this Saturday, when you put water into it and it all comes out with rust water because the inside of it's rusted.
Yes.
Is there any type of liner, since this is in construction, that can go inside there to prevent the inside from rusting out?
One thing that has changed, of course, all the new trucks, instead of having a steel or a metal tank, it has a poly tank, which is all plastic. It's guaranteed for the life of the truck. The plumbing on the new trucks now are stainless steel instead of black iron, so that's a plus. And occasionally we're going to get some rusty water from a hydrant that's hadn't been opened in a while or flowed. So, but it does help with the stainless steel plumbing and the newer trucks and the newer design, that it does help eliminate some of that.
And then the last question is that I know several years back, and I think it's a good thing that we've done, is anytime there's a wreck on the road or anything, we've sent out pumper trucks or whatever to the fire scenes, and it's added mileage and wear and tear on those vehicles versus before, when these vehicles was lasting a lot longer when we didn't do that. Now that we're sending these trucks out on every wreck, hundreds and hundreds of wrecks a year, how is that going to cut down on life expectancy of this new truck that we're getting?
We base our calls on the information that we get. This truck it won't run on every wreck. EMS is pretty much turned over extrication to the fire department. So anytime we get a call with a wreck with entrapment, the truck with the extrication equipment will go. If we get a call for a wreck with just injuries or to assist the police department, we only send the closest engine. So we try to cut back on running these pieces of equipment much as we can But of course, as call volume increases and, we just have to kind of weigh the averages and try to keep them off the road as much as we can.
And I know it's been a good program, because I know there's been several times when you save people from having have a massive heart attack. We save lives by doing that. But I was just concerned that we're doing that. It has it's a two-edged sword. We're doing the right thing, but again, I know it's putting the wear and tear on the trucks as well. And so I just didn't know if it was going to cut back on the life expectancy, because I'm sure these trucks we've had here, this program wasn't implemented back then, so I'm sure they lasted a lot longer. But so now, didn't know if these trucks do we expect this new pumper truck to last 10 years, 15 years? Do we know what we expect it to last?
Life expectancy of a new engine now, at one time when everything had gas engines and, straight drive transmissions, the older trucks, the life expectancy of a busy engine was about 10 years. Now the life expectancy of an engine is 20 years. Okay. And it's, diesel engines, automatic transmissions, the trucks are built better. And so we're getting 20 years out of an engine.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. John Roberts.
Chief, just real quickly, and Ms. McConnell hit on it, said that this truck the specs on them may be greater than what we would have requested already, but are they lacking anything when they get here?
No, the ladder truck especially, when we was in the process of speccing the truck, we had left some things off because of the cost, trying to keep the cost down on the ladder truck. One thing that this truck has, PTO generator, which is valuable to us on any incident as far as running portable lights and that sort of thing. That was a $20,000 expense that we had cut off of this truck for the simple fact of saving $20,000. Now this demo truck has the PTO generator. It has all the portable lights, scene lights already on the truck, and other things that, of course, they built this truck as a show truck, and they added some things to it that we probably wouldn't have added as far as practicality. But with the generator already there, and we're still saving $70,000 plus, and plus getting everything that we need, plus the generator, we feel like it's a better bargain for us.
Agree.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Say let's get it if we need it.
One quick question about I know in the past with the vehicles, the new fire vehicles that we've looked at, you had a concern about turn ratios. We got a smaller one so it would turn. Do we foresee any problems with the turn ratios on these two vehicles making some turns that we need to make?
No, sir. This particular ladder truck, when they brought it down, we always go to the small streets in the city. And, the length is a little longer, but the turning ratio is probably better than the ladder truck we got now due to engineering designs is better now. And the engine also, the turning rate, of course, it's going to be about the same length as the engine we're already running. So it's, the turning radius is good. We can get down all the city streets that we need to get down. And everything's good with that.
And, I appreciate, I know y'all's call volume has gone up tremendously serving our citizens, and I appreciate what y'all do. And with that, Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve this.
First by Mayor Pro Tem, second by Mr. John Roberts. Further discussion?
I say this is a proud day because we've talked about it for years.
It is a very proud day.
So, thank you for what y'all do.
Thank y'all very much. Thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? It passes unanimously. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank y'all. Thank you.
Yeah, it does. Good thing.
Our next to last item is how we fund it, I think. Request consideration of an ordinance entered into a lease purchase agreement for various equipment. Ms. McConnell?
Yeah, it does make us happy, but now we do have to pay for it. This particular ordinance does authorize an equipment lease purchase agreement not to exceed $2.5 million. The lease purchase agreement is a funding mechanism for us. So it's a way that we go about buying equipment, capital equipment, and this is a situation where the life of the equipment exceeds the life of the financing. So it's typical. You've certainly done this before. The equipment included in this 2.5, not to exceed 2.5 million, is the fire equipment that we just described, but it also includes a list of wastewater equipment. One of the things I want to make sure that I explain adequately to you tonight is that you are not approving the purchase of specific, you're not actually purchasing the wastewater equipment tonight. You're providing for the ability, for the funding for the purchase of the equipment. Whereas you are specifically getting the Pierce fire apparatus as well as all of the gear that goes with that. For the wastewater equipment, you've sort of heard this before. Again, this was we talked about this very briefly in being the capital items that we would look at in terms of budgeting capital equipment in sewer, wastewater this year. And certainly it is equipment that is necessary for us to meet our EPA CMOM program. There is a list in your package that itemizes the anticipated equipment. We had to, for the purpose of passing the ordinance for this funding mechanism, we had to give an estimated cost. So again, don't hold us to exactly that a used excavator is going to cost X amount of dollars. We will still have to go through the process to find, spec out this equipment, get the actual comparative pricing and bring that information back to you. But it does allow us, by combining the equipment purchases into one lease purchase agreement, we save the issuance cost of having to do this twice. So we think the combination of the equipment is a good financial mechanism for us. The term of the lease purchase agreement would be over a 5-year period, and we have estimated that the annual payments for the combined would be $360,000 for the fire trucks and that equipment, and then $168,000 for the wastewater equipment. And again, as I said, we've included those payment estimates in our 2016-17 budget. So this ordinance authorizes us to proceed with City Attorney McLean and the McNair Law Firm to move forward with this lease purchase agreement. It also sets in motion the process where we would accept bids or proposals, proposals for following through with that lease purchase agreement.
Thank you. Have we ever done this before as far as a packaging it?
A combination of equipment? Have we done a combination of equipment before?
Not in recent years.
Yep.
Last year was the 4 garbage trucks.
Period, just garbage trucks.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So you said it's 5-year lease?
5 years, yes, ma'am.
Just a couple questions. Under Section 2, just want to make sure it just talks about that city manager or the mayor can make changes to the equipment as outlined in Exhibit A. Is any of that equipment going to change? You know, because it said y'all can come back without notifying council if you change, and say you're going to buy a backhoe, you can buy a different piece of equipment. I think that's the way I read that. I may be in the last paragraph. It says make changes to the quantity, cost, and description of the equipment set forth in Exhibit A.
Well, I think our intention is, we believe this is exactly what we need. If something on this list changes, yes, we would let you know what that change is and why. But again, you will see this list and you will see this specific equipment. It will come back to you again anyway because of what we're purchasing and the amount of money that's involved and the bid process. So we'll bring, probably within the next 30 days. No, excuse me, probably within the next 3 months.
Yeah.
Within the next 3 months.
Yeah, a lot of the state contracts are in negotiations, so they haven't got those bids yet, so we're waiting on those on a lot of the smaller items. But, yeah, it'll take some time to get different bids together on used equipment.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it does come back, because and I may be reading this wrong, it just, like in section 3, it talks about, without further authorization, the city manager can authorize and approve, all this stuff without, as part of this lease agreement without coming, I guess, is that the way that reads in section 3?
Well, our
City manager authorized, empowered, directed to execute and acknowledge the 2006 lease agreement on behalf of the city.
I don't think I certainly don't think it would not be our intention to make any changes to it without informing you, any substantive
But it will come back
changes.
before you. The way I was reading this is that it doesn't have to come back before us. You just go ahead and purchase the equipment, and it doesn't have to come back before city council.
Well,
Without further authorization, the city manager, and it talks about, and I just want to make sure it is going to come back before us.
It's going to come back to you.
Mr. Stewart, the procurement code also takes effect, so that's what would
That's why we're saying
force
it
it
has
to come back to you either way on that, so that doesn't override the procurement code.
Mayor. It would be,
I will be.
it would be just like the fire trucks would be, we just approved the fire trucks. So when these items come back on the list, because it's a generic list.
Yes.
Of what,
Correct.
Yes.
whenever the state contracts get what they have available, then Kerry and Jeff will look at it and decide what to bring back, and then they'll bring it back, and we'll approve it, just like the fire trucks were.
Correct.
And, Mr. Mayor.
Ms. Lockridge?
And it could be, if we get good bids from everything, could be much lower than the cost,
Yeah,
or lower than the cost.
Like we do always, that this reads not exceeding 2.5 million. So if it's less than that, that's great.
That's a good deal. Okay.
But as I understand it, the fire trucks, that's okay, they're ready to go. Ready to proceed with getting the fire trucks.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything else, guys?
I make a motion to approve this, Mayor.
First by the Mayor Pro Tem,
Second.
second by Dr. Thompson. Further discussion?
I have just one.
Mr. Chapman?
The primary reason for exploring used equipment is for the same reason why the fire truck looked at demo equipment. But it is used or
It would be used. We're looking for slightly used stuff that will give us the 10, 15-year life, at least.
I think that's an excellent.
Yeah. And when we had estimated around $200,000 a year for our lease,
Right.
so we wanted to make sure we could get as much equipment as we could to make us successful in that EPA program.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you. Our next item is request consideration of a settlement. The City of Anderson versus Seaman Whiteside. And this particular item also is scheduled for executive session and seeking legal advice in regards to the City of Anderson versus Seaman Whitesides. So I would entertain a motion to go into executive session. First by Mr. Stewart, second by Mr. John Roberts. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? We stand in executive session.